Matt from USA Warrior Stories. We're here at the Southampton Arts Center in Southampton, New York, for an art exhibit by Vietnam veteran John Melillo. John has been using his art to help deal with his PTSD. USA Warrior Stories is a not-for-profit organization designed to record, archive, and share videos of veteran stories, to help veterans make a connection with one another and to help us all better understand their sacrifices for our freedoms.
My name is Christina Strassfield, and I'm the Executive Director of the Southampton Arts Center. The Southampton Arts Center's mission is building community through the arts, so we're so excited to have this exhibition here of John Melillo's work, who's a Vietnam veteran and an artist who's a part of our community. It means so much to me. I'm very proud of my son and my daughter-in-law, who are both in the Army serving. They volunteered, obviously. They went to West Point, they've graduated, they've signed on for an extra 5 years going forward, and it really shows the community. I think what John said today was he was drafted, and a number of people were drafted, but they chose to serve, and it means a lot because this country is so important to us, and that they took it upon themselves to make that effort and to make that commitment. I'm really honored for them, and I'm honored for myself and for our community.
My name is John Melillo, and we're at the Southampton Arts Center, which is a very prestigious place, and I am so honored to be here. And what we're here is to show a short exposition on some of the artwork that I've recently done, but we're also here to talk about closing on our Veterans Day, talking a little bit about our veterans, honoring the veterans, talking about disabilities like PSTD, and not only from a standpoint, an Army standpoint, it's kind of a global situation. You know, everybody's had some dramatic experience that kind of leads them to that particular dark side. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and how to maybe find solace. I found mine through art, and you're going to see that. We're going to do a short slide presentation because I come from the East End, and my heritage is really from here, and I only paint two things. I paint pictures that I took in Vietnam, and I paint my heritage growing up on Long Island, and that's what I want to share with the world and take a little, because Long Island is just such an amazing place. I mean, people don't realize in 8 miles going across 40 miles long, you've got the Long Island Sound, you've got the Taconic Bay, the Great South Bay, the Atlantic Ocean. 2 hours, you can be in Manhattan. There's nothing like that anywhere. So it's really the best of both worlds, and I want to share that in this exposition. I do a patriotic flag every year. This would represent the last 3 years, and I try to keep it close to home. This is Oak Street in West Hampton, circa 1960. I remember passing this barn with this flag, going fishing out at the inlet, and that turned out to be a painting for this year. This was at a parade 2 years ago here in Southampton, as a matter of fact. We call this Proudly We Hold Our Flag High. And if you can see, it was a big flag that was being held by all the people, and the people sitting back and watching it on the street. And this is something that I kind of took from a little bit on the World Trade Center. I wanted to show the strength and the honor and the courage of America. You know, the strength being the jets, the honor and courage being the flag, and certainly the hope being the Statue of Liberty. Art became a solace for me healing. I had a major problem. I was diagnosed with PSTD, Agent Orange, and a few other nasty things after I retired from life, and it caught up to me to a very crippling situation. And I went to the VA, and they diagnosed me with those areas, and they also did a rehabilitation test, and I tested, I never do a straight line before, but I tested high in art. So with their help, I said, who knew? Gift from God, something I didn't know I had. I started taking classes at New York Academy of Arts, School of Visual Arts, and that's what started me off. And I started painting, as I say, two things. The photos I took in Vietnam, and certainly my East End heritage. Now I'm transitioning from a contemporary realist painter to a surrealist painter. Even in the surreal mode, I'm still going to keep my family heritage as a focal point. And that's represented, as you can see, in a lot of these different paintings. This is the marshes out in Orient Point one night. We call that rough night in the marshes. There's so many windmills out in the Hamptons, and I've painted some of them. I wanted to paint one with a whimsical styles. My daughter was involved in fashion in New York City, and she got involved in fashion out here. So I did kind of a little tour with her, and I saw all these mannequins. They want to be at the beach too, so we call these beauties in the beach. And they're all mannequins. They don't want to be in the windows, they want to be out here like the rest of us. So a still life with a little contour on it. Carol, I call this Carol, and I call this Spring Came Early. And what I wanted to do here is, I'm painting on larger canvases now, and I'm doing this, as I say, this abstract surrealism. And I wanted to try to put, like for example, there's a table in the middle. I just want, that represents security. The girl's not lost, she's not in any danger, and she's close to home, so that kind of represents that to me. And I'm evolving. I'm going from a contemporary realist. If you come over here, like this would be our contemporary realism. Matter of fact, this was a cover today on Dan's paper. We got the cover today in Dan's paper. Fantastic. And that would be realism. And if it looks like that, that's the way I want to paint it. That's Orient State Park. This would be a realistic painting, Montauk Point, and that now moving into the abstract surrealism end. First of all, I want to thank Christina and Joe to allow us to present this at SAC. I also want to thank my daughter Beth, without whose efforts none of this would be happening today. I'm very humbled and honored by your presence, and I also want to acknowledge all those who serve the United States of America for the liberty and freedom we all now enjoy. I got involved with art in a probably very unusual way. I graduated from Cornell University in 1969. Within a year I was drafted, which was the last year of the draft, and I was sent to Vietnam. So I came home at the very end of the war to a very hostile America. In other words, you lost the war. The Army doesn't lose wars, so they didn't want any part of you. The sentiment in the United States on the public side was very antagonistic. So I just came home, to make a long story short. I pushed it all aside. I went to Manhattan, found a job, and I ran a New York City pace race for 45 years. And I didn't realize until I had retired that all that running and all that effort was to mask some of the things I had seen and experienced in that war. I started having not only nightmares, I was having daymares. I couldn't get out of bed, I couldn't sleep. This would be claustrophobic to me. I went to the VA. Now, I hadn't been there in 45 years. I went to the VA and I got diagnosed with an extreme case of PSTD. I had Agent Orange and a few other nasty infirmities. One thing I'd say at this point, the VA today is wonderful. They really have changed. They have so many great programs for veterans. And I think the message has to get out to a lot of the Vietnam guys, because they're still turned off from the experiences I went through, they went through. And they don't realize that a lot of this is open to them. And also public sentiment, the outpouring of people, particularly in the last 3 or 4 years, particularly the Vietnam guys, is amazing. It's just, it's almost heartfelt, to see how many people appreciate where we've come and what we've done, and realize that we were pushed aside. So that's really kudos to America. They put me in a number of therapy sessions, and I'm still doing those therapy sessions today. It's something I need to do. But one thing they did, they gave me a vocational test when I was there. They called me in and they said, "John, guess what?" I said, "What?" They said, you tested in the 1% of the art world." Who knew? I'd never drawn a straight line before. So I said, what do you mean? They said, well, if you want to be an actor or a producer or a artist, you're top of the food chain. So I said, okay, I'll bite. So with their help, I enrolled in the New York Academy of Art, School of Visual Arts, Salamundi, Long Island Art League, New York Art League, the Met. I audited any class that I could find that was on the art stage. And I discovered that art really grabbed me. And it turned out to be a gift from God, a third act for my life. It's just something that saved me, and absolutely saved me. So I focused on that. Now, I started painting two things. I only paint two things. I paint my East End heritage, which is from out here. And I paint pictures, which I didn't even know I had until my daughter dug them out. I paint pictures that I took in Vietnam. Okay, and it turns out that, in so doing and over time, we've got a lot of, we've been getting a lot of notoriety with them. I mean, Starbucks, we're the exclusive artists in all of Starbucks in the Hamptons. You go to East Hampton, Southampton, Bridgehampton, Hampton Bays, Riverhead, any Matterville even. And what's unique about that is we put 5 or 6 paintings in there that pertain to that area. And that was unique to them, and that's why they put us in there. So, if you're in Riverhead, you'll see the guys going out to soccer practice. I paint that, So that was unusual. Plus, we were doing different Life Goes On series on the Vietnam side, and we were getting a lot of publicity. We were on Channel 2, News 12, Warrior magazines, every local publication, Dan's paper. Matter of fact, we're in the cover of Dan's paper today, and they were doing articles on us, and a lot of people were seeing that. So we were having people come in to our events, and women were bringing their husbands, pretty much, that kind of lived through what I experienced. And some of them would come in and 50 years later, and they didn't want any part of it, and I get it. I really get it. They didn't want any part of it. But some were coming in and they're saying, gee, he's talking about it. He's realizing that life goes on, which is what the theme of our thing was. But even more important than that, something very interesting happened. People were coming in with artistic children. People were coming in that just suffered loss of a family member, whatever. And something amazing happened to us. We realized that PSCD and these things are really a global situation, meaning we all have our Vietnams, be it a death in the family, a bad relationship, an accident, an illness, an addiction. The statistics say 1 out of every 3 people have suffered something dramatic in their life that they have to, they have to deal with. It's going to stay with them all their life. And PTSD is something that you just don't heal from. It's not a healable wound. It's something you have to learn how to deal with and live with. And how you learn how to live and deal with that, it tends to define you. So, our message now is global, and it says, do something good for yourself. What do you like to do? You like to dance? Dance. You like to read? Join a book club. You like to sew? Join a knitting circle. You like to sing? Join a choir. Do something that gives you self-worth, and in so doing, you might find the solace that you're looking for. And I started out doing contemporary realism. In other words, if it was a picture, that's exactly the way I wanted to paint it, or a scene, that's exactly how I wanted to paint it. And I was painting on smaller sizes. I was painting on glass, wood, canvas, anything I could find. But I was painting on 11 by 14 sizes, 14 by 18, 16 by 20. And now I'm evolving into, which Christina told me what I'm doing, because I come there. I'm evolving into an abstract surrealist. And so I'm painting on larger canvases now. I'm on 24 by 36, 30 inches by 40 inches, 3 feet by 4 feet, even larger. And it's exciting. It's exciting for me. And I'm coming up with new topics. And I'm still trying to, even though it's a little on the surreal side, I'm still trying to keep my heritage, the East End, as a focal point. So with that in mind, what I'd like to do is do a short slide presentation, taking you a little journey of my heritage, going around the East End the way I see it through my paintings. Let's begin with me growing up on the East End. Let's start with the map, and there it is. The map is what you're looking at the East End of Long Island, where I've marked the locations where many of my works were inspired. It's all of 40 miles long by 15 miles wide. Notice all the different bodies of water and topographies. Long Island Sound with its high Great Gatsby Cliffs, deep rocky water, the Peconic Bay, the flats of the Grace House Bay, the magnificent Atlantic Ocean. Going farther east is a treacherous, racist currents between Montauk Point and Orient Point. You have to realize something. You have nowhere on earth do you have these types of bodies. You have all that water, all that different type of topography. In 2 hours, you could be in Manhattan. There's no place on earth like that. I've traveled the world. I haven't seen it, where you have that type of diversity. Okay, watermill. Watermill marked in white is where our journey really begins. This was James Cordsworth's grist mill, about a half a mile from there. On David's Lane, my grandparents were tenant potato farmers to the Halsey family in the early 1900s. My mother was born there, and so were my aunts and uncles. I chose to paint the mill itself realistically, but I let my passion for collective color go vibrant with the foliage in the sky. New beginnings. Going southwest is Flying Point Beach in Southampton. It was our family destination for cookouts in my early years. It also had an unusual sandbar and current which would wash ashore many a shipwreck. My cousins and I would climb and play in them. Even a German U-boat and a beach whale would appear one time. My painting New Beginnings, one thing I didn't mention before is I want my paintings to tell stories. In other words, I mean, you could look at it and get what you want out of it, and that's great. I want that to happen too. But I specifically, there's a method behind my desire to paint, and I try to put meaning to all of it. In this particular case, New Beginnings represents the cycle of life. The sea represents the origin of life. The deteriorating hull represents the ending, and the brilliant skies herald a new beginning or rebirth. Tea time. Heading east to Sagaponack is where my family had the Seabreeze boarding house built back in the 1700s. Many a noticeable patron could be seen, including William de Kooning, John Steinbeck, Jason Pollock, Arthur Miller, and many others. I painted tea time in memory of the times I would see these guests enjoying tea and Sunday brunch on the front porch. Boy in the boat. Behind the boarding house was the family farm, which included a large piece on Sag Pond. It had both a saltwater and a freshwater source. My cousin and I would live a Tom Sawyer Adventure, fishing, hunting, crabbing, and catching turtles on that pristine body of water. This painting was in honor of that precious memory. Days gone by. This was an abandoned farmhouse owned by Betsy Halleck, where it was scary. Way back hidden in the woods at the north end of Sag Pond. Behind this was Jeremy's Hole, which was the freshwater source to Sag Pond. My cousin and I used to go there, and it was like the land of time forgot. Every waterfowl, bird, and water animal would be there. A funny thing, they would not retreat or scurry in any way. We were as if we were the normal culture. Don't be afraid. The Crooked Down Beach, now known as Gibson Beach, and Sag Beach on the ocean were other family outing destinations about a mile from the farm back in the day. No lifeguards were present. Many times I would see parents keeping close watch and assuring their children at the water's edge. This painting is dedicated to all the parents as well as mine that took us by the hand when life challenges seemed ominous. Winter cod fishing. On Long Island, we call Montauk the end, since England is the next stop. Since I was 4 years old, my father would take me fishing there. It's a tradition I carry on today with my trusty, brave daughter. We sail in winter for codfish, 60 miles off the point, regardless of the raging seas. You never get tired of seeing whales, dolphins, and this lone fishing trawler at dawn silhouetted in lead tin yellow, and quizitone red. After the storm, crossing from Montauk Point to Orient Point is a treacherous racist current. Orient Point Lighthouse heralds the dangerous waters. Its square, boiling waves would rival any body of water on the planet. Hundreds of boats have been lost. This painting is a constant reminder of the overwhelming force of nature. Staying with different mixtures of phthalo green, white, and crimson red created the mood of intrepidation I wanted to express in this work. Bird watching. Navigating the races to dry land on the North Fork brings us to Orient Point State Park. It's a long path of land, 2 miles long by half a mile wide, and connects Peconic Bay to Long Island Sound. Actually, Long Island Sound goes out to Atlantic Ocean, so within, a mile and a half, it's just amazing. You have those 3 bodies of water. But it has some of the most beautiful, pristine marsh and estuary networks teeming with wildlife. One day I stopped and observed this mother and son enjoying the terrain and inspired me to paint this most wonderful setting. Red. Backtracking, we ferry over to Shelter Island in the Peconic Bay, and that's where my grandparents first met around 1900. It's a virtual treasure of inspiration with its lush reeds and wildlife. Using various blues, my goal was to accent the orca reeds using coarse pumice in strategic places, bringing forward the red-winged blackbird. Okay, osprey nests. Crossing over Shelter Island by ferry brings us back to the South Fork to Sag Harbor. It was an old whaling town. My family owned the famous Black Buoy Bar back in the day. $2 pitchers of beer, it was great. In the early 1950s, my cousin and I would take rowboats out, flounder fishing, where only yachts berthed today. There were no yachts, there was no bridge. You rent a boat, you went out and fished. My daughter and I still fish out of the gorgeous inlets there. One day we came upon this remarkable setting I just had to preserve. Campfire. Now we're heading west along Peconic Bay. We come to Foster Beach in Noyak. This is a hidden gem that allows fire pits at dusk. You can see many groups enjoying campfires and cookouts. I tried to capture the prismatic shift I witnessed one day from the campfire to vibrant water and sky, which shook me from a value 6 cad yellow to orange to red to violet to blue. Lucky Horseshoe Wave. In Southampton is Cooper's Beach, my favorite beach on the Atlantic Ocean. One day, while everybody was play at the surf, I saw this horseshoe wave, if you can see it. It's a horseshoe wave. I thought of good luck and it made me happy. I took a picture and just had to try to recreate this most enticing scene. Perspective. Behind Cooper's Beach is a long dock on the Back Bay. I've seen it many times over the years. One day, the viridian-colored dock and the vibrant cloud formations with its cast water reflections accented the perspective that just drew me in. It proved to be a very productive plein air painting. Fishing with my daughter. I fish out of Shinnecock Inlet since Carol the Hurricane created in 1956. Today, my daughter and I fish pretty much 12 months a year. Many times we go through this inlet into the ocean. One day at dawn's early light, I caught this very special shot with her in the background. I felt like I captured this very special moment in time that I hope will last forever. Clam diggers. Going over the, and I'm not going to pronounce it, Pompcog Bridge in Hampton Bays at low tide, the shoreline recedes about 100 yards. My father took me clamming here since I could walk. Today the saga continues. One day I caught this shot at dusk. I just had to paint. I would note, except for the people, everything else was created in cad orange and ultramarine blue and flake white. No brown was used in this painting. Color mixing just amazes me. Estuary. Also in Hampton Bays are very small estuaries that lead to their portion of the Great South Bay. Again, accompanied by my daughter on a friend's boat, we ventured out for some bay fishing. On the way out, I caught this scene of still water and stark reflection. Using King's blue, green umber, and dioxin purple, I thought I captured the moment. By the way, the lighthouse you see represents the old lighthouse that was at the Coast Guard station there in Shinnecock until after World War II and is no more. Roosa Canyon one, this one was fun. Late in December, again with my trusty daughter, we traveled 80 miles through the Seminole Riches Inlet to Roosa Canyon. We found ourselves all alone, but for this trawler, whales, seals, and sharks, enjoying this most tranquil solitude. Actually, it was December 29th. I did a tonal painting here using only blue, black, sap green, and titanium white for everything but the boat. As a final thought, the east end of Long Island is just majestic. It's really a bucket list reality. And by the way, the mist you see, it's not fog, it's snow. As I said before, let's go on to the next subject. As I said before, I am presently evolving from a contemporary realist artist to abstract surrealist artist, still using my family heritage as a focal point and painting on much larger size canvases. I think the first one we have is we call the N, Montauk. This is 24 by 24. Then we have the surrealist painting, which is 24 by 36. Let's go to the James Corbis windmill. Again, we did a little surrealism with the foliage, but the windmill is definitely painted realistically. But we're going from a 20-inch to 16-inch canvas to 30 by 40-inch canvas. We call this a whimsical mill of the Hamptons. I wanted to try to combine all the windmills in Southampton. I said, how could I combine them all into one? And that was my answer. Clam diggers, again, back to Pom-Pom Bridge, and versus Cascade, which is a 30 by 40-inch painting. Days going by. A 14 by 8-inch painting, Betsy Halleck's place again, versus Spring Came Early, and that's 3 feet by 4 feet. Next is Power Women. You know, that's a realistic painting on 14 by 18. And now we transition that into, actually I've done 2 paintings, one I just finished. Dancing in the Moonlight, 30 by 40 inches. Thank you, Susan and John, for buying it before the paint was dry. And now we have the Dancer, 3 feet by 4 feet. Better keep her away from that one, John. I know she'll grab that.
I know for sure.
Next is Tranquility. You know, this is a painting. Actually, I took this in the back of Conscious Point, where they moor all the boats. And I took that to sailing off. That's a little gull lighthouse. You know, in South Hole, they have 8 lighthouses off of South Hole. I don't know if you know that. There's eight lighthouses. Little Gull is one of them. The races, and the races current is around all of them. So I did one that was 24 by 36. And I did heading out of Shinnecock Inlet at night. That was another 24 by 36. In addition, I did a mannequin Beauty and the Beach fashion series. My inspiration was, you know, everywhere you look in the Hamptons, you have high fashion, okay? Now, my daughter, who has been a TV producer of Fashion Week for many years in New York City, got involved with fashion opportunities out here. So I'm walking around with her, I'm sitting in all these stores, these beautiful stores, inspired by these high-end local fashion window displays. And to support our efforts and our heritage, I thought I would bring these window mannequin beauties to life at the beach. So now we have beauties at the beach, mannequin beauties at the beach. And the first one is Rose. Yeah, here's Rose. She's the one with her hands sticking out at you. She's the leader of the pack. You know, they just don't want to be in the window. They want to be at the beach like everybody else. Come on. So we took them to the beach. And the next one, but she got carried away, so she had a beach party. There she is again in the middle with her mannequin dog, and all these are mannequins, and they're going crazy. I don't know how we're going to get back in the windows, but you know, but they're out now. They're out there. So maybe the cold will draw them back in. So that's kind of the inspiration there. This is Blinded by the Light, another one, and the last one is I think the last one I did is Pearl of Great Price. So that's the inspiration there. As a final note, for the last 3 years, I kick off my Veteran Week with a patriotic flag for my Life Goes On series that honors all the people that served. The first one is the Old Barn. Yep. The Old Barn, this was on Oak Street in West Hampton, and I would call it circa 1960. I used to pass that on my way out to the inlet to go fishing. I remember that, so that was this year's. Yeah, this is strength, hope, honor, and courage. Strength, the jets are strength. The hope is the statue, and the honor and courage is certainly the flag. Okay, last is proudly we hold our flag high. And that's all about our community coming together to celebrate this great nation and all the sacrifices it took to make it so. And one last thing I want to just tell you that we have a very special guest here, Pat, from, she represents, Pat, come up here. She's the CEO of the Blue Star Moms and represents all of Manhattan, Brooklyn, Suffolk County, Queens. Am I missing something?
No, our territory is Suffolk County, Brooklyn, the city, Manhattan, and the Bronx. We have a sister chapter out of Nassau who covers Queens and Staten Island.
And your mission?
Our mission is to support military families. Blue Star Mothers of America is a congressionally chartered organization, nonprofit organization that we're the mothers of the military. It's our children serving. And it's our mission to make sure that they're remembered while they're deployed, that they know that we're supporting them in their choice, because generations gone by, I'm the daughter of a Korean War Army veteran. They were enlisted. They were drafted. My son just finished 10 years serving our Navy as a Navy CB. With his enlistment, I got drafted. So I also served 6 years as a U.S. Naval Sea Cadet officer, training our junior military wannabes, 11 to 17. So I come from a patriotic family, and right now we are in a mission to see our military, as they transition from military life to civilian life, get all the support and benefits that they have coming to them. It is a situation where, unfortunately, they're coming back and not receiving their DD-214s, their golden ticket to benefits, in any kind of real timeline. I can speak to this personally. My son is 2.5 years separated from the military and still has not received his benefits card. Also, we're there to support our veterans at any age, so that when they come back, should they later in life find that they're having difficulty, we're there for them. We're that warm, soft resource to the resources. And, you know, I'm very happy to say that I was part of John's therapy class.
Yeah, we've taught.
It's not just our veterans, it's our military families that also, you know, go through trauma and just everyday trauma, but, you know, the sacrifices.
Well, we want to thank you for that. And what we'd like to do is, Christina, would you come up here, please? And Christina is a proud mother of a Marine officer serving.
Army.
I thought it was Army.
Army.
Army. Oh, even better. Even better.
Deployed.
Currently deployed, and my daughter-in-law as well.
Why don't you come out and so they can clear picture you.
Oh my gosh.
And I didn't.
Blue Star Mothers would like to give you a special gift.
Thank you so much.
It's your Blue Star flag and your Blue Star flag.
Isn't that great?
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure, dear.
Thank you.
And we're here to make everybody happy. It's a happy. Is there any questions and answers? I'm sorry. Was there any questions and answers? Sorry.
What years did you serve in Vietnam, and have you gone back?
No, give me $1 million, I won't go back. And people say, oh, it's beautiful. And people are wonderful, by the way. I was served between 1971 and 1972, and what was funny is I was at the very end of the war, and I was in a combat military police company, and the Vietnamization of the war was going on. They pulled everybody back onto the posts, and I was on the biggest post in the military installation in Vietnam. And I had frontline supervision with 26 guys working 12 hours a day, 6 weeks days, 6 weeks nights. We had 12 guys on gaze, 12 guys on patrol, and I had 2 dog units, and we had to handle anything from civil to combat involving 40,000 GIs and 60,000 Vietnamese. So every day was just, like, I mean, if I was in New York City with policemen, I'd have badges down to the floor. Around, you know, I mean, every day was just something you just. Your second part of your question, I'm sorry.
Oh, I just asked if you've been back to Vietnam since.
I'm sorry?
If you
Oh, no, I tell you what, you know, the people going back there, you know, the people, you have to understand something. Our show that we do is on the lighter side of Vietnam. I mean, the life goes on Vietnam, side of Vietnam. Even when the bombs are bursting in air, you know, people still have to live. Their aspirations are the same that ours are, you know. You want to live a good life, feed your families, and, you know, be successful. And that doesn't change no matter what the situation is, wherever you are. Those people were very friendly, and they were like that, and I like them. But you know what? $1 million, and people say how beautiful it is, and once you go back, no, not. You know what? I left a lot of triggers there that I can't tell you. You know, I went through lockers packing up kids that were 19 years old, wife and a kid. I had to pack up the lockers and put them, you know, in a box to send them home, you know, with a flag over them. I don't want to trigger those memories anymore. You know, I got out. I used it as a positive experience. You know, I used the power that I had and the guys that I have. You know, you hear all those crazy stories and stuff. You know, we were in a position, we ran everything, and we got involved in everything, and we saved lives. I mean, I don't know what religious persuasion are. I can't tell you how many Buddhists I baptized at the hour of their death, but you know, or we got them into triages where unless it was an altercation with an American in some way, they weren't allowed. You send them to the Vietnamese hospital, and that was like a death sentence. So we always made sure we took care of the young, and I saw a lot of bravery and a lot of good things, and but I also saw a lot of things that would just trigger me in, I think, a very negative way. So I will never go back.
Just wondering, when you were doing your artwork, was there ever any time where it's therapy for you? Have you ever gone to that negative side and explored it? Or you keep the artwork and keep yourself involved when it comes to triggers, or you just stay away?
Well, you know, I paint the positive side. See, except for one, you know, I had 1 year, you know, we've done it for 4 years in a row, and what I've usually done is paint 6 or 7 paintings where I actually show the photograph and the painting and then an explanation. My daughter is a TV producer, produces a show around it. We have those shows. Someday we can actually show it here, we can show it anywhere. But what I do is I take the positive side. Like, for example, I painted, the good example I use is, I used to pass in the jungle on patrol, this tin hut, very humble beginning of this woman, Vietnamese woman, and she cut sugar cane, used to be at the base of the, base of her house. And she had all these little kids running around. They were all maybe 10, 12 kids, and they were all well-dressed, all happy, smiling, running around. But we didn't go in there because we figured it was booby-trapped, Vietnamese cash. And one day I said, you know what, I'm going to stop and see what's going on here. And I went in there, and this woman's way out in the jungle. And I stopped and went in there, and this one, you know, you talk about all the bad things that happen in war. Look, this was a Vietnamese orphanage. This woman took in orphans from both sides of the war. So you talk about, so that's what I'm painting. So when I'm painting that, you know, I'm going to immortalize that situation. So that's a good thing for me. So that helps me. That's a healing mechanism for me. We had to go off post one time, and you don't go off post. You go off post, you're open season, you can get shot, anybody can shoot you. And by the way, I represent the establishment. I'm a military policeman handling 40,000 trained killers. Okay? And I represent the reason they don't want to be there. And I don't want to be there either. I'm drafted. Come on, give me a break. So I deal with all that stuff. But we did. And so one day we had to go off post. I don't remember why. And you're driving with low infrared lights, so you can't be seen. But you can't barely see. And all of a sudden you hit a bump. And I said, look, you got to back up. We got to see. Well, my driver didn't want to back up because, you know, you stop there, you just open season. But he backs up. If I hit a kid or even if I hit a Vietnamese or Viet Cong, I don't care. If he's wounded or something, I'll get him. I want to save him. But what it turned out is we hit a 9-foot rock python stretched across the road to absorb the heat at night. They do that. And it was lifeless. Now, if I left it there, the jungle would claim it within an hour. You know, something's going to claim it. So I said, you know what? I put it in the back of my Jeep. I said, let's take it back to the barracks. The worst I can get out of it is a good pair of boots and a belt, you know? So I put it under my bed, and the next morning I wake up, and there it is, all coiled up, wide-eyed, and bushy-tailed, and if an animal thing happened, that night, no varmint chewed on my boots. You know? So I call it a symbiotic relationship, because I also had a lizard or a gecko lived in my pillow called Billy, and I'd wake up, he'd be doing this on my chest, and he would take care of all the mosquitoes at night, and this guy would take care of the varmints, and we lived one big, happy, symbiotic family for about 3 weeks. And then, funny enough, in about 3 weeks, I get calls, I'm on patrol, I get these calls from the barrack, oh, John, you get back. So I get back, and Rocky, it was a rock python, I call him Rocky. Rocky turned out to be a rockette. And we had all these baby pythons curled up on everybody's bedposts and all this stuff, you know. And you think about it, you know, he never moved. She never moved. She had a food source. She had safety. She should lay her eggs. Well, I didn't even know she had eggs there, you know, in safety. And what's funny is, you know, so I gathered what I could. Motor pool took one. Somebody else took one. The rest of them I turned loose in the jungle, whatever I could find. Everybody's freaking out. But, you know, I mean, 3 weeks later, she left. She always could. There was nothing holding her. She just go out of my bed, out of the barracks. But you know, I missed that. But those are the things that I paint. So when I paint, so I'm painting these pictures. So they're not triggering me. They're good things, you know. And even the bad things are good things. Like another one was we got called out at night, and I painted this too. And you have to see the picture, I think, to understand it. We got called out at night because a wrecker, a 3/4-ton truck, is a canvas, looks like a canvas wagon truck, got stuck with 6 GIs in a rice paddy out in the bush, and you just don't, you know, you just don't go off post. It's real dangerous. Anyway, but so I had that gun Jeep. I'm manning the 60 caliber, and I got a driver, got a guy riding shotgun, and I got a consoc, which is a Vietnamese policeman. You have to take one of those when you go off post. And you couldn't fit a nickel in this Jeep. And we went out and we escorted a wrecker out to grab this truck. And we did that. We get out in the rice paddy, pick up the truck, hoist it up, but there's no place for the GIs to sit. So they're kind of on the back of the truck on an angle like that. And we go across a railroad tracks. And the railroad tracks in Vietnam are not like here. They're ba-boom, ba-boom, you know. So we go across it. The wrecker goes across it. And just as the covered truck that's hoisted up gets across, hits the railroad track, the guys get knocked off the seat, and we get hit in an ambush. And, you know, all hell's breaking loose and screaming, yelling, hollering, shooting. You get back to post, nobody's hurt. Okay, the good news here, not a scratch on anybody, but we start doing a survey. This is a prologue, by the way, so maybe it's a long prologue. We just start doing a survey. When those guys got knocked off the seat, I don't care what you believe in. If you don't believe in God, you better take a second look, because right across that canvas thing are 3 bullet holes where those guys were sitting, just as they got knocked off the seat. In my Jeep, there's a bullet hole right through the corner of the window, and my antenna off my back of my radio got shot off. Now, for at least 2 bullets to come through us and not hit somebody, the odds have got to be millions to 1. So, but the prologue that's a prologue. The prelude, the next step is the next day they send me out with a 4-man crew during the day. They want me to scout out the area to see if I could find an enemy bunker's nest or a sniper's nest or whatever. And we get out there, we don't find anything, but what we find out, and you gotta see the picture. These kids are having the best time of their life. These teenagers, 5 or 6 teenagers, out there, they're playing soccer, they're going crazy out there. And it tells all. Last night was the war, today was for living large. You gotta love it. So those are the things that that I remember, you know? Those are the things that so when I paint these things, I'm not painting shock and awe, I'm painting things that are unusual. Go ahead, Pat.
Was, when you think about the way the Vietnam War is portrayed in movies or TV or media, is there a specific, is there something that you find misleading or a misconception of the public that you want to share?
Not really. It was a terrible war. We shouldn't have been there. I mean, Ho Chi Minh came to the United States and say, look, you fought the British off. We're trying to fight the French off. Would you support us? We hate colonialism. I mean, we said no because France was our ally, and we got involved in it. We should never have been there. And it turned out to be a body count. We can kill 60 of them to one of us. It was terrible. Now, but it depends upon the individuality of who you are. And you'd be surprised in the things like that make you. I'd saw guys come over there. The war should never have been fought. It was a terrible war. Anybody who went to Canada, I have no problems with that. I'm drafted. My family goes. My father's World War II. I mean, we do what we're supposed to. And doesn't mean you have to do the wrong thing when you get there. You do the right thing. There are a lot of people. I give you the other side of people that say I go over there so I can kill people because I get medals. When I'm here, they put me in jail. I mean, I can talk about that too, but I'd rather talk about the positive side. And I saw a lot of that. I saw a lot of guys go out of their way to make people's lives better. The war itself should never have been. It was a civil war. We should have stayed. We should just stay out of other people's 800-year. We were there, and then before us was the French. Before the French were the Japanese. Before the Japanese was the Chinese. These people were, we were just passing through, and they knew it. And we were just there for whatever reason, stop communism. But we could have stopped it by just accepting Ho Chi Minh and telling France, look, you're going to lose a war anyway, just cool it, And say, and by the way, there are a lot of things that were done wrong in that war. I mean, I could sit there and tell you that, you'll see 56,000 people killed. Baloney. If you look at the other side, they have over 58,000 were killed in accidents. A lot of them weren't accidents because particularly at the end of the war, they didn't want to build up any body counts for America. You lost over 100,000 people in that war, whether you know it or not. And it's, as I say, and as individuals, it's what you're a human being, is what you do, And look, some of it is, I tell you, I hate to say that, I find some of it exciting, not the fact of the danger challenge. I mean, you're put in a jungle, so you're put in a jungle, and first it's overwhelming. You're sleeping with your nose like this. You got spiders this big sleeping. But at the end of it, the only way you don't fight a jungle, you become part of the jungle, and you are an animal. So your ear, your sight, your sound, you're on 100% adrenaline, and it's a high. And it's amazing, and you'll see things. Oh, there's a mongoose. I don't know what a mongoose is, but you recognize it. Things happen to you as a human being. There are positive things that happen to you. I mean, if you accept it. I mean, what's the thought process of me raising my hand? None. But in those conditions, you have to react that way. Reaction has to become synonymous with thinking to survive. So everything is done instantaneously. And usually when you do that, you pretty much do the right thing. So there's some very interesting things if you drill down deep in fighting war. But as far as the war goes, it was a waste of time. We should never have been there. It was just, it was a mistake on America's part, and it just was a waste of human lives on both sides. There it is. There are the kids. These are the kids. This is next door. Look at them. And if the picture, that's the painting, but the picture is even the same thing. It's because, the war was last night. Today was for the living large. You gotta love it. And that's, life goes on. You know what? I saw it once. I passed. I say this in a program. I once went by a forest that was just leveled by a bombing. It was just completely decimated. You didn't think ashes and smoldering and nothing would ever grow. And it's funny, 10 days later, I happened to be back there, and There's spruce, foot long, popping out of the ashes and all over the place. And you know, my saying there is, even in the burnt forest, the grass still grows, and life goes on, and it goes on for all of us. So let's don't stop and dwell on the negative. Let's go with the positive. Let's go with the hope. That's your hope in your future of that generation. And I guarantee you, that's why if you go to Vietnam, and I talked to people today that have been there, it's hustling, bustling, because they were very industrious, happy people, and they finally got turned loose from oppression, from not only us, from the French, from the Japanese, from the Chinese. Turn them loose, and they're, you know, there's no more wars over there, no more fighting. And if you ever met Thailand people, you ever met more cultural people in your life, you know, all those people over there, they have a culture of live and let live, and you know, we can take a lot of lessons in our part of the world. What do we got now? Oh, here's my son. Here's Rocky. There he is. There's Rocky. There he is. That's the picture Rocky had to paint. That was him. A Rocket, I'm sorry. Rocket. She took off on me. Anything else? I don't mean to keep you. Okay, thank you.